All right, guys, we've got 2-to-1 SPR now for condensed out of position with traps versus a linear in position. Quick reminder, it's jacks through sevens and pocket aces as the trap, and then aces through fours for the linear in position range. All bet sizes enabled. So go ahead, pause the video, explain to me what you think, and go ahead and guess what you think out of position strategy looks like, what kind of bet sizes, what you think should happen, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I'm not going to wait too long. You can press the pause button. So you should be thinking check still. I mean, there's really no reason for you to think anything other than check. So you should just be thinking out of position is going to check. This spot sucks, basically. We get into it, and it looks like I still think you should just think check. I understand that there's a 10% bet. I explained earlier that betting 10% and checking are very comparable strategies. And so it's not surprising that you see a hand indifferent between checking and betting to a 10% size, particularly hands that don't really want to check raise, but still get a lot of value if they bet, which means our classic category 2 hand. So seeing jacks mix the bet to a 10% size is not like, earth shattering or anything. And the basic idea that you should just check is like still intact. I mean, don't worry about it too much. So out of position here, checks. And now we can go ahead and take a look at the in position strategy. All right, so now we can go ahead and take a look at the in position strategy, and we can talk about kind of like what stands out. First of all, so the first thing that stands out is there's no shoving. So no 2x potting it. Keep in mind that the nuts is what's mitigating and eliminating this as a strategic option. So the presence of the nuts is causing the bet size to just converge on pot. No 2x pot, even if you have aces. And this is very important. And if you think about this, right, you can think through and you can relate this to real game play. You don't have to check a bunch of medium strength hands on the river or a bunch of category 2 hands out of position on the river to the in position player to try to like slow down the betting range. What you need to do is check the nuts, right? Checking the nuts has a very positive kind of corollary or side effect for your equity realization, because it shrinks the maximum bet size the opponent can use, which is great for your medium strength hands when you think about it. So as the out of position player, making sure that you check really, really, really strong hands, i.e. check category 1 or hands or the nuts, is really important. And when we go through the hands section of this video series and we start analyzing in-game hands, you're going to see that that's exactly what happens in solvers and is a strategy that I personally execute. And in these toy games, you're kind of seeing like just how powerful that is. Like here, aces is a significant chunk of the out of position strategy. And even though hands like, kings and queens and even aces win a lot, 2x pot still sucks. Okay. So very powerful idea here that's being communicated. We're still seeing the same bluff to value ratio. So that doesn't need to be explained. We're still betting pot. It's still 2 value bets per bluff. And we're still value betting the top of our range, aces, kings, and queens. You can see here the jacks is now indifferent between betting, or at least more indifferent. I think there might have been some indifference when it was 1x pot. But jacks is not betting nearly as often as it was before. I think a big part of that is that you can get check raised now, right? So you couldn't get check raised before. So jacks had full equity realization. Here you bet jacks to pot, and you have to deal with the fact that like the guy's going to jam on you with your opponent's going to jam on you with aces, right? So betting jacks at a really high frequency is just like not as attractive. Keep in mind that jack splits with jacks and queens always wins. So that's one of the reasons for the difference here. So, okay. And with that, we can go ahead and start looking at the versus bet strategy. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick look at the versus bet strategy for out of position. So in position is going to bet pot. And now what does out of position do? Okay, so out of position is going to jam aces. No kidding. That's obvious. That's the nuts. So out of position jams the nuts. Calls with jacks. Keep in mind that the pocket jacks was value betting sometimes for the in position player. So we call with our hand that is at the bottom of our opponent's value betting range. And then we mix the hands below it. Keep in mind our opponent's bluffing with hands below the sevens, bluffing with 6s through 4s. We can go back and take a look at that, but it's 6s through 4s the bluff. So of course we call these hands are worth 0, and these are the hands that mix. Our overall defending target as we play the spot, if we were playing this game in game in place of the solver, we would be aiming for a 50% fold. So the method that we would try to accomplish 50% fold is pure raise aces, pure call jacks, and then fill out the balance of the strategy with 10s through 7s, of course, recognizing that 10s through 7s were identical hands in terms of their expectation. with a bias towards calling with 10s because it helps to prevent the opponent from value betting further down in their range, going from beyond jacks, for example. And other than that, we just, that's it. It's pretty simple. I think that, again, like we've communicated a lot of these ideas so far, so I don't think we have to like rehash it every single time. And we can go ahead and give it a pause here, and then we'll resume in the next one with looking at the in position strategy versus the shove. All right, guys, we're now going to look at in position versus jam, and use a little bit of math. So just because raising is something I've dealt with a little bit less often in this video series so far, but the math uses all the same principles and methodology. So if we jam for 200, we're making a bet of 200. That's all it is. It's just a bet. We're betting 200 chips. If we bet 200 chips, the total pot will become 400 chips. 200 over 400 is 50%. So that's the fold percentage that we expect overall. Keep in mind that the whole do any of the hands, does it matter if those hands in our opponent's range beat? We can't, keep in mind that we count all of the hands in our opponent's range at this point. We don't only count hands that beat bluffs, and that's because if pocket sevens didn't jam, its EV was going to be 0. So our opponent has to make sure that it's defending enough to keep the bluffs basically indifferent. Okay, so we jam 200, we get an overall full percentage of 50%, which jives exactly with kind of like what I'm explaining. In this context, aces is the pure call because of course, the out of position players value betting pocket aces. And then kings and queens are the hands that beat bluffs but lose to value bets. So is jacks in that regard. Kings, queens, and jacks beat value bets, lose to beat bluffs, lose to value bets. And as a result, these are the hands that mix. Keep in mind, these hands will be worth 0. So they happen to be worth 0.12, but if I solve this to infinity, they would just be worth 0. This, keep in mind, this is like an empirically solved tool. So just kind of, yeah, don't worry about it. It doesn't solve things with a conclusion in mind. It just iteratively goes through. But if we solve this for eternity, this 0.12 would converge on 0. And just to put this 0.12 in context, it's in the context of the 400 chips that are in the middle. So it's a rounding error. It's worth 0. Okay. So yeah, I think with that, we can just keep going. So thanks, guys.